Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a great day today. Now, as you might know, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has just came out very recently, so in this video we're going to be doing a review for that. Just hop right into the review. This is visually phenomenal. It's just very fun to look at. Probably visually the best out of all of the movies in this trilogy. There's just some really good costume design, and the attention to detail in the cartoon characters is very good with their fur and their eyes. This also just feels more like the video games. You can tell what it took inspiration from, and just overall this is an improvement over the first two movies because there's no subplot with the humans. The humans help with the main plot instead, which is much better.
Hey, that's pretty good.
And just from the beginning it jumps straight into the action. The opening scene is phenomenal, which actually makes the scene after that feel a little bit underwhelming, but it's all fine. Really, if anything, this movie probably could have been a little bit longer, especially the transition into the final battle, because while it works on a story level, it does kind of rush a little character development level, which I'll talk about later. But still, nonetheless, this is super funny while also being easily the most emotional out of all these movies in the trilogy. But the humor and emotion at no point ever undermine each other. The tone and vibe feel perfect. There's some great performances in here with the voice cast and the cast. Obviously, Jim Carrey came out of retirement for this movie, which he said he would only do if there was a script of gold. And then the director actually sent him the script written in gold ink, so it's not like he had a choice. And in this movie, he plays two Robotniks, the main one and his grandpa Gerald Robotnik, which by the way is not a spoiler because that was in the trailer. So there's just a really good dynamic there. It just definitely adds to the fun of the movie. Also, not to mention, Agent Stone in this movie is great as usual. He's just a really great sidekick to Robotnik, a great side character. And we also have Shadow in this movie, voiced by Keanu Reeves, who did a great job. Just every line he speaks just sounds like someone that had all of his happiness drained from him. And he's just a very compelling villain because of his backstory. So as I said, this is easily the most emotional film in the series, and it also easily gets the darkest, still being a PG movie. And the reason Shadow is such a tragic villain to the point where you don't even want to root against him is because his backstory in this movie, which is very similar to the other pieces of media, has to do with him befriending Maria, who, as many of you know, dies. And when I was watching it in the theater, I was just like, oh no, this is that whole episode of Sonic X all over again. Or maybe that was a two-part episode, I actually can't remember. But I really like how they had multiple flashbacks throughout this movie to kind of build up to her death scene. I was kind of thinking going into it that they might just have one huge flashback, but I prefer the way they ultimately went with. And some people were complaining that they didn't really show her dead body that was all burnt up or anything and it should have been rated R. I don't think that's the case. I was satisfied with what we got. I just think it got the point across, and there's actually a really good shot of Jim Carrey as Gerald Robotnik just reacting to her death, where you can definitely tell he's very upset about it. And this character throughout the movie is very goofy for the most part, but in this one moment it kind of reminds you that, you know, Jim Carrey actually can act serious sometimes, like he does that occasionally. Now, I will say I'm not the biggest fan of how they had a fake out death with Tom. Basically, there's a point in the movie where Shadow punches him super hard and he's in critical condition, and if they were even going to tease that, I feel like they just needed to kill him off just so there would be more emotional weight in the film. But that just wasn't the case. As soon as an ambulance showed up, I knew it was all fake. But that did need to happen in order for that character development moment for Sonic to turn more like Shadow and then ultimately realize his mistake, and then he teams up with Shadow. They become Super Sonic and Super Shadow because he got the emerald from Wade, which was a nice little cameo. But as I said, in order for it to work on a story level and set up the final battle, it does feel like the character development there was a little bit rushed, but that's really not a huge problem with the movie. And once you get into the final battle, it's just great. It's probably one of the best final battles in cinema history. It's up there with Return of the Jedi, Lord of the Rings, Avengers Endgame, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Hotel Transylvania 3. I mean, the stakes had never been this high, and as all of this stuff is crescendoing, it becomes very evident what Gerald Robotnik's intentions this whole time were. He just wanted to destroy the entire world, and that even included himself, and that's kind of what he manipulated Shadow into agreeing with him. But Dr. Ivo Robotnik, on the other hand, just does not want to do that because he wants to rule the world, not destroy it.
What?
And so it's just the perfect scenario where he realizes that all he can do is save the world. That's literally what happens. He and Shadow end up sacrificing themselves to save the world, although it is confirmed in the scene at the very end of the credits that Shadow survived, which I'm definitely fine with because there's a lot more stuff they can do with him in the future. But before Eggman dies, he gives this beautiful speech to the whole world, and it's specifically addressed to Agent Stone. And he makes references all the way back to the first movie, which is just a very good full circle moment. And I like how before he went out, he did get a super game accurate suit that just looks phenomenal. And just overall, it was a very beautiful ending.
Call optical illusions.
Tell him I need new frames.
Of course I want a latte. I love the way you make them!
I'll be home by Christmas.
Welcome to the new norm. Let's do this! If I can't rule the world, I might as well save it.
So I actually don't think in future movies they'll actually be lazy and just bring Eggman back somehow. And we did get a post-credits scene with Amy Rose and Metal Sonic, and I'm sure in the 4th movie there'll be even more characters introduced. And I just think the future of this franchise is looking pretty good. And hopefully maybe in the next movie they finally just leave Earth as the main planet and just branch off to somewhere else where it'll just feel more like the other Sonic media. But overall, when it came to this movie, I just thought it was great. I think it's easily the best movie in the trilogy. I had a blast with it. And because it's the best Sonic movie we have, that automatically makes it one of my favorite movies of all time. But does that actually make it one of the greatest films of all time? Well, yes, and that's not up for debate. So overall, on the quality scale of 0 to 100, I'll give it a 93%. And I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Sonic. As I said, it's a great movie. The problems that I really do have with it are very minor, just some things I would have done a little bit differently. But still, it's just very great. If you've seen it, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.